Live.
Good morning, everyone. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public review session for July 27th, 2020. This is a review session. No testimony will be heard at this time. The following items will be adjourned. Item number 1, 23-08-BZ, 80-14 Chevy Chase Street, Queens. Item number 2, 2019-263BZ, 2122 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island. Item number 3, 2019-196-BZ, 41 East 20th Street, Manhattan. And item number 4, 2019-30-BZ, 2705 East 28th Street, Brooklyn. Those are the adjournments.
And we'll assign a date for continuation on those at another time and let the applicants know.
Yes. Decision items. Item number 5, 115-94-BZ, 2470-2480 Bedford Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I don't know if the people in the waiting room can hear me because perhaps they're trying to join in to listen. But if you're in the waiting room, we cannot admit you until we move into the hearing session. This is a review session and no public testimony is permitted during that time. So 115-94BZ, let me just scroll down here. Sorry. Okay. The plans were revised to show the tire racks inside the building. And I wanted to just point out to commissioners that there was an updated filing on July 21st with the plan revised to label the tire racks because the prior filing just had rectangles and you didn't know what it was. Photos of the interior of the building show substantial full height permanent tire rack installation. They are very substantial structures, so I think that will really be used, but you can see they have a lot of tires in that place. New awnings were installed and a photo provided of those installed awnings. The site looks much better now, so I appreciate all of the work and expense, frankly, that the owner went through to bring the place into shape. The restrictive declaration was amended to respond to commissioner comments. Most of the comments were from Commissioner Sciabetta, so I want to check that he's okay with it, but we'll go in turn. And also that our council is okay with the restrictive declaration. I was okay with it. So comments, Commissioner Shana, Vice Chair.
I have no additional comments. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was satisfied to see the efforts that they have made in response to our concerns, and I hope they stay that way. Continue to maintain the site in the way we expect them to.
Yes, great. And Commissioner Otley Brown?
I have no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Sciabetta?
Nothing additional. I want to thank them for the clarifications on the drawings and for the efforts that they did, and I hope they're going to continue with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sciabetta?
I think they were very responsive. I have no further comments. I am glad that they have put this level of effort in, and I'm eager to move this along.
And the restrictive declaration, they removed 9 on, as you had.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with it.
Okay, great. And council, are we good with the restrictive deck?
Yes, we reviewed and it looks good to go.
Great. Okay. So then, I would like to make a motion to grant on condition, and we talked about this before, that it would, because of the history of this site, that it would just be a short leash, mostly because we had so much trouble with the tires on the sidewalk and the parking on the sidewalk. So, and the restrictive declaration is mostly about those subjects, right? To try to prevent the parking on the sidewalk. So we had talked about short leash of 1 year and 6 months from the date of resolution. So the other conditions were carried over from prior hearings. Plant street trees or apply for revocable consent for benches. Hours of operation limited to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. No parking vehicles on the sidewalk as discussed in the restrictive deck. No storage or display of tires on the sidewalk, similarly in the restrictive deck. No automotive repair work permitted on the sidewalk, also in the RD. And there shall be no body fender work or spray painting done on the premises at all. And trash dumpsters shall be stored inside the building until immediately prior to pickup. So any other conditions that anyone needs added, speak up if you think. Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion to grant on that condition.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Motion has been granted. Item number 6, 121-95-BZ, 37 West 46th Street, Manhattan.
And again, this is a review session, so we won't take public testimony on this. Turnarounds were provided on the drawings. I think maybe there was a misunderstanding about what I had actually wanted. I had actually wanted to see the turnaround in the sauna shower room itself, because that's the only place that a person in a wheelchair would be able to go to take the services that are offered on the mezzanine floor. But when I look at the size of the turnarounds and I kind of imported into the sauna, it looks like there would be adequate turnaround. So I don't want to hold this up because of that. A cover letter, and this is a direction to all the project managers and the applicants. A cover letter should have been provided with the submission. The cover letter is the bare minimum for all submissions, and all the project managers should review the submission and request a cover letter and bubble drawings if it's not received with the submission. So I beg the project manager to do that when they review the applications. Look for a cover letter and a bubbled set of drawings, and if it's not submitted, ask immediately for a resubmission with those things. Okay, so other than that, I didn't see any issues. Does anyone else have any comments? Just speak up if you do. Okay, everyone is nodding their heads no. So then I'd like to make a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Item number 7, 2018-192-BZ, 229 Lenox Avenue, Manhattan.
Okay, again, this is a review session. No public testimony will be taken. Actually, an executive session. There was no submission required on this. I just want to, are there any other comments from commissioners before I make a motion? No? Okay. So I just want to clarify that fire department had objections to the application. So I want a condition, the condition will be compliance with fire department requirements. So these are objections kind of from way back, which I'm gonna maybe read. I don't know whether, let's see, fire department's thing. Chief Daly said in the first hearing that they reviewed the plans with fire officers, and New York City has a bad history of fires in single family homes and are concerned about the large openings at the rear of the building. So just to point out for the record that the original application had very large window openings that were proposed, and now the project is basically keeping the existing window openings, so they're not nearly as large. But the request by fire department was to extend the sprinklers as opening protectives, which is one of the building code requirements when you have lot line windows, that you put a sprinkler head right at the window. And they also had concern about elevators that were for the community facility. that they have to remove the elevator recall, and the booster pump should only serve domestic water, but it also serves the sprinklers. Then they need a sprinkler alarm. So with the concern of fire department, I'd like to just include that as one of the conditions that they comply with fire department.
The latest from the fire department was a letter of no objection, right?
Yeah. So, Madam Chair, there was a letter that was submitted, which is dated June 29th.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay.
And that was based on an inspection that was conducted by Chief Daly and Mr. Rickett on June 19th.
Okay.
And and I'm just reading the letter if everybody has, do you want me to read the letter just for the record?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Our inspection revealed that the premise is fully protected, and that sprinkler coverage at the rear walls is sufficient based on design practices. Sprinkler heads are located less than 5 feet from the rear walls and would provide sufficient water coverage to prevent the spread of fire to the exterior of this premises. Based upon the foregoing, the department has no objection to the above referenced application. The Bureau of Fire Protection will continue to inspect these premises and enforce all applicable rules and regulations.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. So maybe that's what we could do, just comply with the fire department requirements in that letter. We'll continue to comply.
Yeah, okay.
Great, thank you very much for pointing that out. Okay, so based on that, I'd like to make a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Motion has been granted. Item number 8, 2019-158-BZ, 89-03, 57th Avenue, Queens.
Okay. Okay, plans were revised to correct lighting levels. Just pointing out generally, we have another McDonald's application that's coming up that pointed out something that I hadn't even considered before, so I won't get into my concern for this application. That we've been focusing on the menu board sound levels when we also should have been thinking about the sound that is emanating from cars that drive up and turn their radios on so that the whole neighborhood can hear, right? And what that does to an adjoining resident. But the similarity here is the subject application is a 24/7 drive-through as well. None of the prior resolutions made reference to the hours of operation, so it's not like they were limited. So there would arguably be no way for the property owner to know that there's any limitation. And I can only hope that the absence of community testimony on this case means that the noise is not a problem. Another way is they just get used to it. But anyway, any other comments on this case before I make a motion? No? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to grant on condition that dense landscaping be maintained with living plants, because we did see dead planting on the site. That the menu board speakers be maintained at levels that are inaudible beyond the property line, as opposed to us setting what the DBA is. It should be inaudible on the other side of the property line. The lumen levels on the other side of the property line shall be 0. Management must ensure that no loud music is played by patrons waiting in the drive-thru. So this is me adding what we're learning about another one. Between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. We could discuss whether this is okay to add now. Dumpsters to be kept within the dumpster enclosure at all times. Trash pickup to conform to the operational plan that was submitted, and maintain the site clear of debris and graffiti. So I'm going to go around the room if you have comments. Commissioner Shanda?
I think we should add the revised the trash pickup operation, that there will be an additional pickup the applicant had proposed. So we should make that also, add that into the condition. Let me
But
look.
is that in the operational plan?
It is.
It is.
I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. So we can refer to that. So we just, that way.
Right, so not refer to it. I would like our council to actually cite what's in the operational plan in
Fine.
the resolution, because who can find the operational plan once it's done?
Okay.
So with regards to the loud music, what were the hours that you were
I
proposing?
was suggesting 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. of loud, that's to do something so that you can have your car radio blaring after 7 p.m. so that maybe they put a sign up that says no loud music or something. Or as opposed to before then, I don't know. You're not supposed to do it anyway, but.
Right. I think we should just have a sign saying no loud music, period. That way they can, if there's any complaint from any of the neighbors at any time, the owner can then require them to tone it down.
Yes, okay, that's fine. All right, so one of the conditions will be post a sign that says no loud music while waiting in the driveway or drive-through parking lot. Okay.
And that should be right next to the menu board.
Okay, placed next to the menu board. Okay, that's a good idea. Well, the menu board's too late, we learned. It needs to be at the entrance when you're getting onto the drive-through, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
It could
That's
say
true.
something like turn up
I would say when you're in the drive-through area, no loud music, period. And you know what? This is even an easy. When I saw the videos from the project that you mentioned in the beginning, the one that made me like, it's not actually the menu board. It could be the cars. I was thinking about maybe if there is a noise sniffer that could sniff the noise at the entrance of the driveway with a gate. And if somebody has like a loud music above certain level, they shut the gate down so they cannot get in. I hope something like that exists. We would call for it.
There is a city code noise level requirement. So I think I would go one step and say wherever the parking lots are, and also there are now these pickup spots, the vehicles can wait. And so someone could be waiting there and also playing the music while they're waiting for the pickup. So any of these places where a car is occupied and is waiting. So I would not be saying in the drive-through, just put them all over the parking area and the drive-through saying no loud music, period. And that's it.
Yes.
That way we are making everybody alert. If somebody is waiting in the parking lot, waiting for their friend to go in and pick up something, no music, anytime.
On the property, on the entire property. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other comments on this? Commissioner?
I agree with Vice Chair that signs throughout the parking lot would be appropriate. And I've seen it in other drive-through fast food restaurants where there are signs all through the parking area that says, be kind to your neighbors, turn your radio down, turn your radio off while you're parked. So it's not unreasonable.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we should just say turn your radio off, or turn your radio off. It's the easiest way to regulate it.
Yeah.
Right. There's headphones if you really are bored and you need to listen to stuff. Okay, great. All right then. So any other comments? Yeah, go ahead.
If I would just, I hate to be a stickler because this isn't one of our bigger concern cases about, but the trash is still located on the property line. The enclosure is still located on the property line.
Yes.
And we've been working a lot with, refrigerated trash, but in this particular case, we don't really have the same issues. So I think maybe a note saying something along the lines of routine rodent and pest control to be part of the operational plan, which I didn't find.
Okay. So we're adding to the, so the trash pickup to conform to operational plan and also routine rodent and what?
Pest.
Pest control.
Okay. Okay, good. To be implemented. Okay, good. All right then. So on all of those conditions, council, did you get those conditions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So on those conditions, a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Motion has been granted. Item number 9, 2019-202-BZ, 2218 East 3rd Street, Brooklyn.
Plans were revised as requested to eliminate the greenhouse that had never been reviewed by this board, but a porch was added at the rear that we also never reviewed. I'd like to communicate to this applicant and also to all the project managers to let their applicants know when they see something like this, 0 changes in future will be permitted to plans other than the ones specifically requested by the board once the hearing is closed. We close it because we don't expect to see anything we haven't seen before. And that's the whole point. So I'm actually very disappointed with this applicant for throwing this in after we had already told them to take out the greenhouse that we hadn't considered. But because it's only a porch, I just don't want to drag this on more, but I don't want to see that ever again. We'll just reject. The instruction to the project managers is reject the drawings if they include anything that goes beyond what the applicant was instructed to do at the closing hearing. Okay. So, Commissioner Shanda. Oh, so I'm going to just make a motion to grant, but if you have comments before that we want to maybe add, so go around, and if you have comments, just add them. So Commissioner Shanda?
No additional comments.
Okay, so motion to grant, so Jella's not at the table. So there she is, she's back. Hi, Jella. I know you're double
Sorry. Chair Perlmutter,
multitasking. Maybe someone else can, does anybody else have the vote sheet? So how about,
I have it. Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
On a motion to grant, Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Ali Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
This application is approved.
That's the beauty of Zoom teleconference hearings, that you can raise a family and also run the BSA.
I think that's the dedication of our staff.
Exactly, no question about that.
Yeah.
To the max. Okay, so
We're
Carla,
on-
can you read the next?
Yeah, which item is this? I'm sorry, I just lost track.
2019-296 BZ.
Okay, item number 10, calendar number 2019-296-BZ, 8484 Franklin Street, Manhattan, Rothkrug Inspector.
Okay. So this one, the only thing outstanding is actually LPC approval. We don't have the authority to grant an application until LPC issues their certificate of appropriateness or no effect. That's actually in the administrative code. So we can't vote on this. A cover letter was submitted that describes the duplicated services to respond to the ADA accessibility issues. So I'm okay with this. Any other comments? But we can't vote today, so we have to defer. And I think this time we're just going to give a lot of time, because the last time we heard this was a month and a half ago. Was it? Yeah, a month and a half ago, and apparently that wasn't enough time, and understanding that LPC is dealing with lots of difficulties as well. So I will just give it more time for a vote.
So this matter will be deferred to a later time to be
Yeah.
determined.
Exactly.
Item number 11, calendar number 2020-06 PZ, 88 Madison Avenue, Manhattan. This is the law office of Jay Goldstein.
Right, hold on. No submission was required on this, and I don't see any comments about needing to have a condition. So I'd like to make a motion to grant.
On a motion to grant, Madam Chair Perlmutter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Yes.
Commissioner Ollie Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shida.
Yeah.
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
This application has been approved.
Great.
Okay. And this is scheduled for a request to withdraw. This is item number 12, calendar number 2019-266-BZ, 1498 Clove Road, Staten Island. This is the law office of Stephen Simovich.
Simisich. And we got a withdrawal request that states that the owner has decided to proceed with an as-of-right configuration and no longer requires a special permit, which would have allowed a larger ambulatory care facility. So a motion to withdraw.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Ollie Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shida,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
This application has been withdrawn.
Okay. Now we can move to the review session for the SOC, the continued.
This is continued hearings. Item number 13, calendar number 122-95-BZ, 152-65 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens, Capel, Barnett, Madelon, and Schoenfeld.
Mm-hmm. So actually, we have a cover letter submitted to us that indicates the client is now represented by different counsel, the Office of Chris Wright. We need an owner's authorization for this because the owner has to authorize that Mr. Wright's office now, instead of the Schoenfeld office, is his representative. I'm not really sure what the protocol is, whether we can actually proceed. But I can read my comments because the assumption is the client is okay with the submission, and you would think that a lawyer wouldn't spend all the time on a submission if they didn't have client authorization, but we really must have that. The cover letter, I'm sorry, there was proof of service of notice of this teleconference hearing to area residents, which was provided as requested. At the time, when applicants provide that type of notice, they don't necessarily have the dial-in information. So the instruction is always go to our website and see if you and see which day it is and what the dial-in information is for that day. Proof of continuous use since the 2016 expiration of the permit was provided in the form of leases, utility bills, real estate tax payments. The applicant submitted revised plans. Our direction to install a dense landscape buffer was ignored. The proposal is instead a 14-foot high acoustical wall. I don't believe building code permits such high walls on property lines in residence districts, hence the 8-foot typical fence height that we see. But in addition to that, a 14-foot high wall on the property line is tantamount to allowing a new building on the property line as far as the neighbor is concerned. It's a very aggressive approach to blocking off access views and all of that. And I just don't really think it's I personally don't think it's an appropriate way to handle an adjacency. The purpose of the landscaping is to absorb both noise, vibration, and fumes of the non-residential use that is proposed to continue 24 hours a day. In addition, we had many other directions to the applicant that were intended to soften the impact on the neighborhood. Those also were ignored. So, and I don't frankly see the point in the applicant or its client ignoring our directions. We we give these directions, we expect them to be followed. So I personally am not willing to support 24/7 active use on this site without the dense landscaping to buffer the residents from sound and fumes and the other site improvements also. And also I expect to see the other site improvements that were discussed at the last hearing, which were intended to sort of soften the impact of this use on the neighborhood. We can see based on the current conditions at the site that there hasn't been great respect for the aesthetics or the peace and quiet of the immediate neighbors, and there needs to be. This is right surrounded by residential use, and they need to be respectful of that fact. The proposed lumen spread diagram shows a step down at the property line by retaining that one pole light from 3 lumens to 0. I don't see how you can do a step down like that so quickly. So the short answer is you probably can't. The light pole, the only thing I can think of is that the light pole is lower than the proposed 14-foot fence, but that's not really logical because 14 feet is very low for a light pole. And anyway, I don't agree with the 14-foot fence. We directed the applicant actually to move the pole inboard, and it didn't do that. So yet another thing that was ignored. And I'm actually not going through all of those things that we had asked it to do. In terms of compliance with the prior grant that we asked the applicant to go through, the curb cut on 132nd Avenue actually was never restored to a curb. It remains a drop. So all that happened was they repaved that area, but it still dropped. However, the fence that used to be a gate was turned into a fence to prevent access from 132nd Avenue. So that was something that they were directed to do. The site is overgrown and abandoned looking. That's not acceptable. The fence on 132nd Street is uneven. The whole thing looks neglected. The hours of operation limitation were ignored, which is, they went to 24/7 without asking us, so there's no compliance there. Lighting is not directed away from residents. Trash wasn't stored inside the building. The chain link fence has no opaquing slats. These are all things that were on the previously approved drawings or in the resolution. The rear wall of the building was supposed to be stuccoed. I don't know if it is. We don't find out. And it's certainly not ivy covered, which actually was an assumption that the board made. That was an understanding. It wasn't in the conditions. It was in the understanding. It says, whereas the back wall will be stuccoed and covered with ivy. So that's the wall that faces the rear yards of all those residents, many houses. We don't know what the maintenance condition of that rear wall is, and they need to provide photos of that condition. I frankly think that based on the submission, which mostly ignored what we directed, the property owner is not understanding what the board is trying to do, and therefore needs to attend all of the hearings on this case. Ideally, the counsel for the applicant can now call their client and ask their client or direct their client to join the Zoom hearing when we move into the hearing. So it's pretty easy to kind of jump into these hearings. All you need is a telephone. So yeah, so now I go to Commissioner Shanda or Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. So with regards to the continuous use, the applicant meets that element. With regards to the substantial loss hardship, I think the applicant needs to beef it up a little bit more, and I would look forward to hearing it from Commissioner Otley Brown. I felt that they needed to justify the cost associated with repurposing the space for as-of-right use, and estimated cost for repurposing of an as-of-right use has not been provided. With regards to the lumen, start with the easy one, the lumen spread. I agree with you. I think the lumen analysis does not ring true. Also, it does not factor in some of the lights that are built in to the exterior wall. That also needs to be included in the lumen analysis. There are mounted walls right over where the docks are.
Sorry, there are mounted what?
There are mounted lights right over on the exterior walls where the docks are in the parking lot. So those need to be also included in the lumen analysis. So 14-foot high wall, initially I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. It will remove the possibility of the view also and the noise if it's a well attenuated. But I agree with you that, that's a very high wall to be had along that perimeter, though if it was, if it was a community facility use, or even a commercial use, they would be allowed to build up to the lot line to the height of 23 feet. So with that in mind, I was kind of like, okay, if we are to do that, then the 14-foot high wall really has to be of good quality finish. It has to be of stucco finish. It has to match the finish of the existing building, and same kind of IV treatment and other things should be provided. With regards to the drawings that's been submitted, the plans, the elevation plans do not match the actual build condition. The heights, especially the rear elevation, it does not match with what is built. I'm a little concerned that they have not responded to our question of the landscaping. I think they can still provide some amount of landscaping in addition to the wall, especially along the 132nd Avenue frontage, so that it buffers that view from that street line. And we have not seen any photos of that. I did not realize it. I don't think the previous drawing had it. There's a square opens like an outdoor open area behind the building, and this is the first time I think I'm seeing it. And we don't know what the condition of the planting is, and we need photos of that. And definitely the condition of the planting along the frontage of Rockaway Boulevard is woefully inadequate. That needs to be beefed up. There is tree, but it's dead tree. There is some shrub, but it's dead shrub. And I don't think that's what we mean by landscaping. So those need to be improved significantly. So they need to provide a very detailed landscaping plan with the details, and these have to be in-ground planting. And also they should provide an arrow in the plan. It's very difficult to read otherwise, the elevations and other things.
Provide a north arrow, you mean?
North arrow, yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
Oh, and they need to show in the plan the location of the trash storage inside the building.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ollie Brown?
I think they need to get rid of the barbed wire on the front of the fence, especially if they're going to operate 24/7. There's no need for that. And I went by the site when it seemed to appear to be closed, and it seemed pretty secure without the barbed wire, and it would just add to having a less noxious effect on the community if it's not like locked down like a prison. I think they also should show their actual meter readings after installation if they do proceed with changing the lighting but keeping it in the same position. I was fine with the continuous use proof that they presented. And as for the hardship, I mean, additional details as per Vice Chair is certainly welcomed. But I really think that a 46,000 square foot warehouse that has been in existence for 25 years with tenants, that would be a real loss for the property owner if they had to get rid of that and repurpose the building. So I personally am fine with that as a hardship.
Okay.
No other comments.
Comments about the 14-foot high wall?
I think if anything, maybe they should reach out to the owners behind and see if they would be okay with that. I personally, if I had a home, would be fine with a 14-foot wall on my backyard if it shielded me from having to hear trucks backing into the loading zone and hearing items being dropped, probably heavy items dropped and placed in various places at all hours of the day or night. If the wall was going to help because it was a sound attenuated wall and I didn't have to see it, I'd be fine with it. So I think maybe they should reach out to the owners.
Okay, but and I think to that point is because what you're talking about is vibration. I don't know to what extent these sound attenuating walls absorb vibration.
Well, it's not exactly, I wasn't referring to vibrations. I was just referring to noise, like kind of abrupt boom, this dropped. You can hear it as well as feel it. And I wouldn't even want to hear that, especially if I'm in my backyard doing anything.
Right. Okay. Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna read from the previous statement of facts, or from the only statement of facts we got so far. It did say all loadings occur on Rockaway Boulevard, with a dispatcher present to supervise the trucks and ensure all the loading occur inside bays and not in the open parking lot. This statement, this nice statement that gave us like some hope regarding the noise of a truck close to residences is gone now, because according to the maneuvering plan, it sounds like the loading, unloading will be from inside, from the parking lot. So if this will be the case, I would think of my backyard with the trucks probably less than 50 feet away on the rear, the reverse, and it's trying to go back and forth. The noise from this will be destructive. I'm not sure how is thing like that could be mitigated using a 14 feet, even a 14 feet fence. So this is my big concern with operation on that side. Trucks going back and forth on a low shift, that's gonna be like really noisy. The second thing is the lighting. And I believe that I did look at the lighting, and the lighting diagram, the luminous spread diagram for me does not make sense. If you have it in front of you, and if you want to know how like to judge whether somebody played with the numbers or not, I have it in front of me. If you draw, the light is like two portions. If you draw a 45-degree line, like bisecting that light, like diagonal line, and you look top and bottom, they should be the same because they are symmetrical. But if you do that on the luminous spread provided to us, they are not. So I believe somebody played with these numbers a little bit. Since the lighting is changing, I would ask for, even if we go with a grant on this, and I'm not sure if we're gonna do, if we go with a grant, I would make it like a short term and then ask for actual readings before like we set this to peace. So readings I believe readings are urgently needed here because of the close proximity of the site to the residences. They mentioned that they moved the trash enclosure inside. I thank him for that, but we need to show the location. And last but not least, if you look at the picture they provided, one of the pictures they provided, it shows a fuel truck parking inside the parking lot. I'm not sure what is that. Is this permanently parking?
A fuel truck?
Yes. If you look at the picture submitted on July 1st, 2020.
July 1st, June 30th. Oh, okay. I don't have it.
May I add that when I was at my site, when I conducted my site visit, I did not see any fuel truck. So it would be good if the applicant can clarify.
Yeah, it has a black card on the back, and it's flammable.
Swiss, yeah, Swissport. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so I'm not sure it doesn't seem to be like visiting. So I would, because it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's parking like very close at the corner. So I would like to get some clarification on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. I actually was confused. Are they renting out parking spaces? Because they're supposed to be a warehouse and that's what the trucks are doing, right? But this a fuel truck isn't a warehouse thing unless they're renting out parking. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabeta?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be brief. I'm just going to discuss the 2 points that I think that we're not all on the same page with. I think the one for me is, while I am certain that this applicant has a hardship, and I think it's clear from the facts that they have a hardship, for the purposes of consistency, I think they should just write it out and explain it, because we require it for other cases for them to be specific in their hardship. With regard to the 14-foot wall, I think the applicant's mindset has to change here. It seems like the theory that they have is to create an efficient commercial complex, as opposed to something that blends into the community. So I would think that more landscaping may soften the site up while meeting the sound attenuation needs. While it may not be the most effective, cost effective at least, I believe that the noise goals can be met in a less obnoxious way.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
I just to add to the proposal of the 14-foot fence, I think you started earlier on to state about whether it's permitted or not, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed if it's a matter of a waiver or not, or if it's a code matter.
Right. Well, but then we're talking about an amendment, significant amendment, right? So it's either in the zoning resolution and or the building code. It may be in both. I'm actually not sure what the rules are for the height of the fence. We always see 8-foot high fences, except on the rooftop of play areas, right, where they're allowed to be taller. And then they have really strict limitations where they have to be open 50% or something like that, right?
Yeah, I only bring it up just that if this were to go forward all the way, that we wouldn't grant something that we hadn't received a proper objection or something reflecting that waiver to not make it improper.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any last minute comments? Oh yeah, Commissioner Shanda, sorry, I saw.
Yes, I want to add to what Commissioner Otley Brown said about the removal of the barbed wire. I think, CCTV, whatever that technology is so common and so abundant, that can be used very easily on this site to ensure additional security. And if this is going to be 24/7, there's always going to be people there. So I'm not sure why the barbed wire is being asked for. Right. Also, if we were to go with the 14-foot wall, instead of a light pole, the lights can be mounted on the wall on the inside. So it can be more directed inside without it spreading over the property line.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, to Commissioner Shabeta's point about the landscaping, you know me, I'm always very pro landscaping because you look at the wall that's up against the rear property line already of the existing, those like 10 houses that back up against it, the distance from the back of their house to the wall is very far. They have very deep backyards, but the house that's surrounded by this use is right. If you've done a site visit or you go to Street View and you go to 132nd Street, that house is next door to all the activity, feet away, maybe 10 feet away is its sidewall. So 14 feet only gets you, first of all, to the first floor. So maybe the solution, if we're talking about an acoustical solution, is first on the property line, dense planting that can grow really high, and then the wall behind it, which functions as the acoustical barrier. So on the one hand, you're providing for the neighbor a soft perimeter, and on the other, you're also providing, to the extent it does any good, the acoustical barrier. But if the trees grow tall enough, they function as a further acoustical barrier. Plus, you know, as we learn about from the McDonald's that's coming up, from the fumes, and we're not talking car fumes here, we're talking diesel fumes of trucks that idle. They don't turn the trucks off, right? They don't shut them down for whatever reason. So they idle there waiting to load into the truck dock. I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure whether this rises to air quality analysis. That's something for Tracy to look into. But I'm actually really concerned about that. If this is a 24-hour thing, then there's no time for the fumes to dissipate, right? So that's another reason for the planting. That's providing the oxygen in the air and so on, the filtration system.
Yeah, the air quality part, I think that's for Ms. Benke to let us know. But I'm looking at it from the point of view of what the zoning would allow as of right. And an as of right, all of these properties could have a building that goes all the way up to the property line, that is up to the height of 23 feet. You know, that would be allowed a commercial use. So I was going with that mindset in terms of what these buildings would be facing. And I have in my neighborhood, there is an acoustical wall that is being used to separate out the houses that are on one side, and with a basketball court and tennis wall and all the other game wall, that basically separating out a playground with an acoustical wall with apartments and homes right behind it. And with a similar kind of distance, some closer, some less, some have a 50-foot yard, some have 30-foot yard, some have even less. And this is a wall that is basically buffering the basketball, the tennis balls that are being hit against the wall, all of that. So I think from a noise point of view, if the acoustical wall is built properly, it can address that, because I have been to some of these apartments and I have not heard any noise from that other than the standard noise one would hear like I hear from my apartment from this park.
Right, but so I just want to add, we're not talking about something as bucolic as a park and playing tennis. We're talking about, if you've ever been around a truck loading area, it is noisy. The truck just rolls in and they're smashing and banging. They can't help it. That's the way trucks are. So it's enormous amount of noise and fumes. So that's why I'm going that way. But, you know, I hope that, I don't know whether we have any neighbors who are calling in. I hope that they do. But again, you know, some of this is what the neighbors feel about the wall. And the other thing that I want to say is the 23 feet that's permitted by zoning for a commercial and use, when it's up against a residence district, there are different rear yard requirements. That's first. And then, which I haven't checked, but there are. And then the second is that when it's an enclosed structure, we don't have any of these things to worry about, right? The enclosed structure is containing, arguably, the noise and the fumes. In this case, you're not containing any of that. You're just building a wall. It's just a bigger fence with an acoustical quality, but it's only 14 feet high. So, you know, what can it do? So, I mean, I don't think it's apples and apples, hitting a tennis ball against the back of a wall. So, and then I go again to the subject of equality and whether a person on Park Avenue in the Carnegie Hill district would ever accept this kind of a condition, right? So, yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Schiavetta.
If I could, I think that the acoustical wall in and of itself would not be the biggest issue for me if it's not something that's in the sight of the residents. If we do have lot line if we do have a lot of light line landscaping, which reaches a certain height and covers what we would see as the acoustical wall, outside of whether or not this is permissible pursuant to zoning, it could be another layer of defense from this use to the residents. But I think that to have that, I think Commissioner Otley Brown stated something along the lines of a prison complex with the barbed wire and stuff. Like, I don't want that to be the effect of that wall. I think with enough vegetation around it, enough landscaping around it, it may not be something that the residents around see, and it would serve the benefit of possibly limiting the amount of noise that they are enduring.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair. I just want us to be prepared for the kind of response that we got last hearing when we started talking about the landscaping in the vicinity of the neighbor's fence. They started talking about the parking. They want to preserve the parking spaces. If you look at the Google image, you can see too many cars parking there. I'm not going to talk about the site visit and how many cars were parking because we're in lockdown, but even during normal times, when you look at the Google image, few cars are parking there. There are 2 or 3 big containers, really big containers on site close to that fence. So I would say, like, looking for somewhere else to park few cars while transforming this area into a nice landscaping area with really dense and tall landscaping, in addition to a tall enough acoustical fence, might help making like what they are asking for feasible. It may. I'm not sure if it's gonna fly, but if you want to get what you asked for, please show us some cooperation, not that total ignorance.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the next one unless there's any last minute comment. Okay. Thank you.
Item number 14, 27-96-BZ 602-04 Coney Island Avenue, Brooklyn.
The plans were revised. The problematic rooftop activities were removed from the application. That was something where we're like, we don't even know whether we have the authority to grant this, et cetera, or is it part of the PCE or part of the restaurant and so on. I didn't see a response to our questions about accessibility to the mezzanine where the showers and lockers are. There's no elevator there. I didn't see any kind of response to that. We still do need DOI because this is a change in operator. Before it was Elizabeth Safian. We discussed this at the last hearing, so I'm reaching out to our project manager. Was the form, the necessary form submitted to DOI, Mr. Ruffin? Darryl?
Yes.
Hi.
I have to check. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Okay, so we'll, when you find out, let me know. I'm going to go to the other commissioners, okay? Commissioner Shanda.
Okay, so yeah, I have same question with regards to the accessibility to the mezzanine floor. And we still don't have the DOI.
Right.
Right, that's it.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I'm glad that they removed the proposed rooftop operation. I think the resolution should be very clear that we are not authorizing rooftop outdoor use.
Okay.
No other comments.
Okay, thanks. So we'll make that a condition. Okay, Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further from me on this.
Okay, and Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further from me on this either.
All right, Darryl, were you able to find it? And if you haven't found it, please submit it immediately. And if you don't have the form, let us know so that we can ask it of the applicant. My understanding from the cover letter, one of the cover letters, was that the form was submitted, but I didn't actually find it in the file.
I don't see it, so I have to reach out to the applicant.
Okay. So please follow up with that because I don't know if we would have been able to close this, but we can't without DOI. Okay. All right. Anybody else on this one? Okay.
Item number 15, 120-13-BZ, 1815 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Okay. So again, there are 3 people in the waiting room. They're not necessarily the people we've been getting submissions from, but I do hope that we have the testimony from the neighbors who've been writing so much of that on this. We have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. And for those listening on YouTube, this is a review session. And shortly after, we're going to move into the public hearing on these last 3 cases that we discussed. The community board recommends approval. I'm very appreciative. Oops, sorry. I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry, I'm reading a really old one. Sorry. We have proof of notice of this hearing, which was mailed to immediate neighbors as directed. We received as a result, I think, a very informative video on May 20th and a second video subsequently, and then others subsequent to that as recently as yesterday that confirm my many fears about these drive-throughs relative to the adjoining residential properties. An incredible amount of noise from the cars themselves waiting in line to reach the menu board. Backup of traffic due to slow throughput. Not every McDonald's is the same, but this one apparently moves slowly. Car lights shining into windows. The noise from the car radios was actually so loud on one of the videos that I couldn't hear the narration of the person filming the video to tell us what time it is or what he's seeing or whatever. I actually couldn't hear his voice, and I'm assuming he's talking right into his phone as he videos it. And that was taken from his home window. The second video, which was filmed at 4:30 in the morning, and then there were subsequent ones also filmed early in the morning, 6:30, times like that, have the sound of staff members taking an order at the menu board, which is what I'm always saying. I don't want to hear the menu board from my backyard ordering a double mac with cheese, right? And there you could actually hear the response of the order taker. These videos underscore the seriousness of the situation at this site that we first learned about at the last hearing on March 24th when we received a letter kind of late, but now we have a very large amount of testimony from people who have been sending in constant emails and videos. Most of them are from the same people, so they're immediate neighbors. Subsequently, we received written submission and additional videos, as I said. In light of the many complaints that the owner has received from neighbors directly, there's also our compliance officer reached out to DEP to see whether there had been noise complaints, and DEP confirmed that there had been 3 noise complaints, which I assume went through 311. And then, and also the submissions to this board by the neighbors, even at the last hearing. I have to say that I'm shocked by the applicant's response to our comments. There isn't even any landscaping on the so-called landscaping plans in the set that was submitted on July 9th, 2020. That may be a result of the layer of landscaping not having been turned on the drawings, but it actually, there's no way to know that. It looks just like we're not going to landscape. So to put it simply, because I think that the applicant may have thought that what we talked about at the last hearing was a suggestion. This is a direction. And I don't know if other commissioners agree, but from my perspective, this is a direction, not a suggestion. Move the trash enclosure to another location away from the residential property line. I don't care how, not my problem, figure it out. increase the trash pickups if necessary to reduce the enclosure size. It's a really large enclosure and they're only getting 3 pickups, and you can see what a busy site that is. Obviously 3 pickups is not enough. And so they have to have more, and that way they don't need such a large trash enclosure. I would say absolutely no to the 24-hour operation, just no. And in fact, the drive-through hours must be limited, and I'm making a suggestion because I'm imagining being able to hear all of this, and how do you control the loud radio noise? So I'm like, at the earliest, it starts at 7 a.m., not even convinced about that. And at the latest, it ends at 9:30 p.m. I'm also not convinced about that. But it can't go on if you assume that the ownership is not going to control the radio noise. The entire perimeter that is shared with residential property lines must be densely landscaped with buffering shrubs in planting beds with a front to back measurement to allow for 2 rows of dense full height, minimum 8 front to back measurement, must be densely measured and planting beds with front to back measurement to allow for 2 rows of dense, full height, minimum 8-foot clear for the tree boles, and with arbor vitae planted to 6 feet high to grow to a minimum height of 8 feet. So we know that we have success with these double rows, these double staggered rows of creating dense shrubbery between the noxious use and the residents. So before we're like, it's sort of a decorative 4 feet, now, no. So install also a high acoustical fence behind it so that you're getting, as we discussed at the other one, the benefit of both the shrubbery as a sound inhibitor and a fume inhibitor, and then the acoustical fence behind it in this case. Change the lighting so that there is 0 spread past the property line, because they didn't show 0 spread past the property line. This lot is really large and there's plenty of room to do all of this, which is what we discussed at the last hearing. And they have to do it now, or I personally will vote to deny the entire extension of the right to use this drive-in, because they obviously are so disrespectful of the neighbors. They also need to regulate the drive-through. So if it's closed off at a certain time, then a gate needs to be installed to shut it down so that they can't have it open. And that way neighbors can monitor that the gates are not shut down during off hours. And I would say that if we were to grant the extension of the current allowable condition, which is not 24 hours, we put them on a 1-year leash. And the owner, by the way, absolutely must attend this hearing. I see Mr. Rickard's hands up. The owner must attend this hearing. So counsel for the applicant, for the owner, should call the client right now and let them know that they need to call into this hearing and participate, because they seem not to understand the seriousness of this. Okay. And now, obviously, I'm upset about this. It's what I always feared about drive-ins. I'm going to recognize Mr. Ricketts because he has his hand up. He's our compliance officer.
Hey, Chair. Hey, Board. So I just wanted to mention I did visit the site. I was not able to speak with management at the time. The site was actually very busy, and I did not want to enter due to the virus and all of the pandemic issues that were going on. I just wanted to make a point. The parking lot is rather large. I would say if there's any way to get them to possibly close off sections of that lot so people don't hang out there after they get their food, because I do think that is what's happening in other parts of the lot, because it's a very large parking lot. So if there's any way that they can control some sort of access to other areas of the parking lot to just limit how many people are actually hanging out in the lot after getting their food or before getting their food, whatever the case.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Were you there at a time when you could hear the radios?
I was there. I'll be honest, the cars that were there were more quiet. The day I visited was not a noisy day at the site. There was a lot of people waiting. There were definitely at least, I'm going to say 5 cars, maybe even more, But they were not noisy. Music wasn't being played. It was early in the day when I had went. This is probably before 11 a.m., I believe, when I had visited. So definitely wasn't a noise, wasn't a crazy noisy visit at that time.
Right. So one thing I do have to point out is this is a special permit for a drive-in. It's not a variance for the commercial use. So there's sort of a limit to how much we can control legitimate use by the non-drive-in. But if the drive-in is functioning as having people pull out into the parking area and then hanging out and making noise, then that's another effect of the drive-in, which arguably would be curtailed when the drive-in doesn't have as long hours and we put some limitations on noise and so on. Okay, so Commissioner Chanda, Vice Chair Chanda.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the neighbors sending us this information. You know, we do make site visits. We don't often catch all the situations, so it is very helpful and informative to get this information from the neighbors who are there more often, more frequently, and can observe what's going on. So with that, this is an extension of term for a drive-through facility in a zoning district where eating and drinking establishment is permitted as of right. So as part of the initial grant for the drive-through, it had to meet all the findings of section 73-241, which is a special permit. So with that in mind, I want to focus on the drive-through and its impact on the surrounding residential use. We have received several videos from neighbors of noise coming from the menu board, and that is audible during the daytime, and music from cars waiting at the drive-through service at night. The videos taken on 7/25 by the neighbor of loud music confirms that a 24-hour drive-through at this location should not be permitted. Going forward, we should only consider granting a 24/7 drive-through where there is significant distance from the drive-through to the abutting residential neighbors or other sensitive receptors, and or significant amount of sound buffer through construction of sound attenuation barrier, dense planting as buffers. So specifically to this site, the sound level of the menu board definitely needs to be adjusted, because even during the daytime you can hear it with other ambient noise. So so definitely the noise level is very high, and it should not be audible beyond, I would say, even beyond beyond the vehicles that are waiting. There's no reason it needs to go beyond that. The fence with slats, I have always been against it, and especially the photographs that have been provided goes to show that fence with slats, while they meet the opaque requirement, it is not truly opaque, especially, you know, there's always going to be gaps. It's like looking for a fine linen. So linen is more beautiful looking, but so I don't think we should also be we should be allowing where we are requiring opaque barrier, as a chain link fence with slats does the justice. We should look for solid, you know, fencing, whether that's wall or, you know, the vinyl walls or other kind of, there's so many other technologies out there, but it has to be something that is more permanent. And that definitely blocks the light that penetrates through an opaque fence, chain link with slat fence kind of thing. And in this case, definitely the fence has to have the proper amount of noise attenuation built in addition to the landscaping. There is enough of a landscaping bed around this site. And I have to say, I was very disappointed to see the photographs that shows the landscaping installed. It's a little bit of a disrespect that is being done, not only to the board, but also to the neighbor by providing a landscaping bed that is not at all fully landscaped. And especially where the drive-through is, there is an 8-foot wide landscaping bed. I agree with you, Madam Chair. You can definitely provide an acoustical fence, and in front of it, 2 levels of dense planting right in front of it. And the trees have to be tall enough, so at least you can block the view and the noise from a higher level. So, and the lumen spread, again, it's still not showing 0 at the property line. And that's it.
And I just want to interject before we go to Commissioner Otley Brown. I am so glad you said this finally about the chain link fence. I hate chain link fence and slats. It's a cheap solution that has been allowed historically. I didn't want to make waves. Sometimes we say not allowed here because this is a neighborhood that has beautiful little, wrought iron fences and things like that. So there's a neighborhood that's got existing beautiful wrought iron fences. So we'll say you have to install a wrought iron fence on your property. But in the interests of treating everyone equally, everyone should have the same quality fences surrounding the commercial properties to show that there's respect for the residents adjacent. And chain link fence with these plastic slats that fall apart sometimes within months is not that way. So I thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Otley Brown?
Yes, I know at previous hearings, I urged a more conservative approach towards making sweeping changes on this lot, pending reaching out to the neighbors and finding out what was really going on. Having heard from the neighbors, I'm now fully supportive of the chair's ideas for changing the way this site is operating its drive-through and the effects on the neighbors. And I absolutely support and agree with the chair that if this property owner does not come into compliance concerning the suggestions or the strong directions that the chair has made to improve the operations of this site, then I would absolutely be supportive of discontinuing drive-through at this site. That's how upsetting it was to see how the neighbors have been suffering for the past few years based on the previous grant, which didn't go far enough to control the operations and the negative effects it was having on the neighbors. So I am absolutely in support of you. I think that the trash enclosure can definitely be relocated. There could be a combination of between options 4 and option 5 to get the trash enclosure in there with doing the least amount of disruption. And I urge them to listen clearly to what the board has to say and almost retreat immediately and say they're going to put in to practice these new measures that are going to ameliorate the negative effects on the neighbors.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go around the room, but I see Commissioner Shanda's hand up. Okay, Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be repetitive. I'm not going to be repetitive, but in addition to what is said, 2 points very quickly. That luminous spread, I believe they said they're going to submit something. They are on it, working on it. They said they're going to submit something around the hearing date. I haven't seen anything coming regarding the luminous spread. So I'm assuming that they are still working on it. Regarding the noise, I just want to say to, and not just the noise consultants, to all the consultants submitting to this board, things changed. And please, when you submit something, respect it. That noise study was like this. We measured, and then we measured at 6 feet. Why do you measure at 6 feet from the speaker? We care about the property line. Why didn't you measure at the property line? This is number one. And number two, we measured at 60 feet and then we projected. So we don't know how they projected. They believe that we do not understand how they project. No, we do. And you don't need to project. Just go there and measure it and put it in the report. And when we look at it, if it's satisfactory, it's gonna fly. If it's not gonna fly. And I believe that's what they should do. Not measure 6 feet from the speaker and then project to the fence and pick the way they project. We did ask for measurements from the beginning. This is a duplicate from what is submitted before. The only difference is instead of taking the speaker manufacturer word for the output from the speaker, they just went there and measured it. But again, they did the same exact thing, extrapolating to the fence. and then saying based on our extrapolation or projection, everything is pinky. You don't need to worry about anything. We don't need acoustical fence. You know what? Look at the videos submitted and look at your report, and please consider being directive when it comes to requests from this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Shibeta?
Thank you, Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with the comments made by my colleagues. In particular, those of the chair and the vice chair. I thank you for those. Those videos are an outrage. That this condition has been ongoing is outrageous. And while I believe the applicant should follow all of the directives that we've made, this is a special permit. It's on them to show us that this is not going to affect the community. And clearly that's not on their mind. And short of them making some drastic steps and going above and beyond what we've said here to ensure that the people, that the lives of the people around them are not going to be so negatively affected by their use, I don't see me being supportive of this application.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Commissioner Shanda, Vice Chair Shanda, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add, given that we gave this direction to the previous drive-in that we just approved, was should we go forward with this, they also need to put signs in throughout the parking lot saying no music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a reminder. And I think that is something should be standard going forward with every drive-through facilities or any project that is requesting special permit to allow such commercial use abutting a residential use.
Yeah. So it's to be easier because no music, then they're listening to talk radio. So it should turn off
whatever the language that covers everything.
Yes. Turn off your radio, turn off your sound system.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. I think that's it for it. So now we can move into
Okay, so now we will begin the public hearing for July 27th, 2020.
What? This is charming, but maybe we should have Carlo review. Carlo, are you still there? No, maybe not. Okay. All right, Jella, go ahead. We'll try. So you know what, Jella, I can read the cases in order, okay? So we're going to now start into the executive session. Sorry, I'm scrolling to the top. Okay, so we're going to begin the executive session with case number 122-95-BZ, which is a continued hearing, 152-65 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens, formerly represented by Capel, Barnett, Madelon, and Schoenfeld, and now by the office of Chris Wright, or Christopher Wright. So I should be seeing Mr. Wright in the waiting room. Maybe somebody named Chris. I'm going to take a wild guess that that's who it is. In future, Mr. Wright, if you would please put your last name on. State your name when you can hear us. Okay. We don't hear you for some
Hello,
reason.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good morning, commissioners. Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank the BSA for, this is Chris Wright. I had my video and mute, I'm on. Can you
Yes,
see me?
no, you're on. Turn off your YouTube video.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me turn off the YouTube. My mistake. Hold on.
Right, okay.
All right.
Okay, are you, and in future, it would be helpful if you titled yourself more than Chris, have your last name, because we have a lot of people, we have 8 people in the waiting room, and you know, we can't tell which one is counsel if it's just Chris, okay?
I'm off now. I turned off the YouTube, and now I can't see anybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you, so you have to turn on.
Oh, there I am. Got it. All right.
Okay, good. So are you expecting anyone else to join you?
Not from my team, no.
Okay. All right. So this is going to be hard in terms of testimony, but we'll try. Okay. There are 8 people in the waiting room, and I don't know if they're talking about your application. Okay.
It seemed, I see they seem to all be your staff, but
Say again?
everybody in the waiting room seems to be your staff, but maybe
No. I don't know if you can see the waiting room.
Okay, maybe I can.
Yeah, you can't see the waiting room. I'll go through some of the names we recognize from people who are providing testimony on other cases, but some I don't know who they are. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I did mail a notice of this hearing with instructions to everybody on the block. So perhaps some of them are I don't know if.
Sorry. Before you start, we need to swear you in.
Okay, it's Chris Wright. Sorry.
No, but we need to swear you in. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I don't know if Jella can do the swearing in. Can some?
Yes, I can do it.
Okay.
Do it. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Before we start, though, we need to have an owner's authorization from you. You need to get that immediately to us because technically,
Yes.
you don't represent this applicant, right?
Yeah,
So-
I'm sorry. I sent the letter in. I didn't realize you need that as well. You'll get that ASAP. I won't wait for anything else. I'll get that to you this week, okay?
Okay, thank
It's
you.
important. My apologies.
Okay, go ahead.
I thought my letter was enough, but I agree.
Now, the letter from you says I'm representing them, but your client would be like, well, that's news to me. I'm
I
not
agree.
paying.
My apologies. My apologies. Okay. So you'll get that. I'm not getting that right away. You'll get that the next day or two. I just have to get hold of them. So, I just wanted to say for the record, I did review the session from last time very carefully. I listened to it carefully. I made notes, and if I missed something or didn't understand something, I apologize, but I did my best. I just want to say that for the record, that it's not my style as a BSA practitioner for 25 years to ignore requests, but sometimes I don't always get it right, but I just wanted to say that. But I think if we may move to what I think is probably one of the most central issues is the wall. And let me try to tell you the thinking, because we feel the wall is the best solution. I had discussions with we have a very good architect on this job who's not on the call this time, but perhaps next time he should be. I asked him to review landscaping and sound mitigation, and he felt that this wall, and I think it's compliant 14 feet, but I can ask him. He certified he stamped the plan. So I assume it's zoning compliant, and I'll check with that. But he felt that this wall, which I think it's used to buffer around large HVAC systems and things, is by far the best for noise mitigation, which he thought was probably the #1 issue, which is why he recommended. He wasn't sure landscaping would be the best in terms of noise mitigation and also being a truck parking lot and whether or not how it would look and last and be maintained. So he felt very strongly that the current approved plans approved an 8-foot high chain link fence. So we have approval for 8-foot high. We would like to go to 14 because we thought that was the best buffer of not only noise, but a visual. And so, we would like the board to seriously consider the wall as a proper solution. I can't be sure what the neighbors may or may not think, but it's bound to be better than a chain link fence with slats and barbed wire, which is there now, which is 8 feet high. So I would like to promote the wall, if I may. And then just to finish, the applicant is endeavoring to address the concerns of the board about the impact, particularly along the parking lot fence. It turns out there weren't 3 lights, there was only 1 at the elbow. So that was good. And then the architect, I said, come up with a better look.
Sorry. You're breaking up a lot when you speak. So can you say that last sentence again?
Okay, I will try to speak a little slower. I apologize.
Oh,
what I want to try to do is just explain.
Can you just hold on a second? There's a Chris right now in the waiting room. I don't understand. Did you just call in?
No, my phone's in. Can you get rid of that person?
No, I just won't let them in, but you're okay. All right.
Bad man. No,
Okay.
there's only one of me that I know of. So let me just try to explain the wall concept in general, because I saw that as the biggest issue with going to 24/7. And so I talked about the architect felt this was a very good noise mitigation wall. I think he went to 14 feet because he felt that would be the higher, the better. I'll check zoning compliance. When we looked at the site, it was pointed out by Commissioner Shanda there were only one light there, not three. That was correct. There was only one light. So we then decided to put up a better light with visors on it. The architect prepared a lumen diagram and stamped it and certified it. So I can't address whether the numbers are correct or not, but he can, it was his professional opinion that was a correctly prepared lumen diagram. And I told him this, whatever fixture he comes up with cannot have any impact on the neighbor's property. And so the general idea is this wall with one light, to us, we think it's the best solution to really mitigate this 24/7 activity. And then I know there was some comments about the fence on 132nd Avenue, which is a chain link fence. That could be, I was thinking during the review session that could be landscaped easily. That could, I think it's on 132nd Avenue. It abuts parking. There's no trucks back there. So perhaps what we could do is landscape that portion of 132nd with planting. That would be relatively easy to do. And I think that might help as well. And then just the last point, the fence along Rockaway Boulevard, the barbed wire is there just for security because there's lots of cars there. If the board thinks the barbed wire, I provided the picture trying to show is properly maintained, but the board really wants the barbed wire removed, we'll remove the barbed wire. So perhaps we could focus on, maybe we could talk about the wall and the board's concern to see, because just I want to say that the applicant and myself and the BSA, we really need, I hope, to come together with a way to get this approved, because, and I said it in the facts and findings, without 24/7, they can't get a tenant. This is a JFK corridor of warehouses, and they will not be able to get a tenant. And then a year ago, they didn't lease it out and come back with legalization. This applicant went through the BSA 25 years ago, and a lot of issues were there about making sure it mitigated, and they put them all in place. So they're
No, they didn't put them all in place. I went through a list of all the things that are not compliant. So they didn't put them all in place.
All right, but if I may stop now and talk about the wall and how we can make the wall work, because we truly believe it is the best solution, and that is a point.
All right, I would like to just cut to the chase, because we have a lot of cases and the board has voiced its opinion. Your property owner who next time, if you're not able to, because I asked on the review session that your client call in as well so that they could hear our testimony, right? But if they're not able to call in right now, for whatever reason, they must listen to the review session video and this hearing, because they have to understand how serious we are, okay? If they're serious about wanting a 24/7 operation in the middle of a residence district, where I'm looking right now at the site plan, and that poor house that's surrounded on two sides by this use has to put up with 24 hours of trucks coming and going and backing up and clanging into the loading docks. If we're to allow those outdoor loading docks to actually operate 24/7, which, as we said at the last hearing, we wouldn't be able to regulate those being closed at night and the other ones being, and the interior ones being open. So if you want to actually, if this client is serious about the 24/7, they have to understand this is in a residential district, that in addition to which you're adjacent to residential property owners. So the easiest way to explain this every time is, imagine that's your house. You live there. And the 14-foot high wall is what you get up against your property. And this house is at least 2 stories, I think more. And you can see into that truck area. You can see the lights on 24 hours a day. And whether or not they're turned away from you, you can still see them. It's not like the lights vanish. And you're hearing all night long guys in the yard working, the trucks crashing. So the simple answer for me is yes, so the wall might be okay, but we can hear from the community, but not alone. That you need to understand that you're adjacent to residential and that you have to soften that impact with planting. And if it means losing some parking spaces, if it means that the trucks need to take a different kind of a turning radius, that's the way it goes. Otherwise, it's not an appropriate use in this neighborhood 24/7. And we're talking about, if you just look at the site plan, we're talking about that entire area that is shared with the residential properties. And so you may lose parking spaces, but you actually have a very wide space between the parked cars and the not parked cars and the driveway. And as Commissioner Sheta pointed out, there are very few cars that seem to be parked in that lot. So there's ways to modify operations to accommodate dense buffering. And you just have to do it. And in addition to which, you know, the barbed wire is emblematic of the attitude towards the neighborhood. You have to have planting in the front of the building where there was supposed to be planting. The site has to be maintained. It's overgrown. It's neglected. It's being treated like it's in a manufacturing district with manufacturing neighbors adjacent, and it can't be. So for me, that's just cutting to the chase. No negotiations. That's what you have to do in order to get an approval on this.
Yeah, I'm not to argue with you, but the same owners went through this in 1995. They listened to the concerns of the community. There were a lot of conditions. If we haven't complied with them all, we can do that. And so I think they're very aware of the neighbors and they're very sensitive to the neighbors. I would not to belabor this point, I think the site is reasonably well maintained. The reason that there's not that many cars is because, as I said before, there is a current tenant who will be leaving at the end of this month. And they have moved their truck operations. They had no choice to stay in business, but they're continuing to use the office. There's only a few cars, but under the operation plan I submitted, they predict 50 employees and that the parking's needed. So I really don't want to eliminate a row of parking that was part of the site plan in 95. And then, now
it doesn't mean you have to eliminate a row of parking. If the architect is so talented, the architect can rearrange the parking to accommodate planting along the perimeter. And I don't actually think it's appropriate to be arguing about this because I am looking at that little house from the street that's next door to this property. It's less than 10 feet away from that fence. You live there. What do you feel about what's going on? I know that the property went up for sale a couple of years ago at a much lower value than the area houses. Why? Because it's located next to a really disagreeable use. That's not right. And it's possible to make the use more.
Yeah, well, that's you know, I'm not arguing with you, but that was why we came up with a 14-foot buffer fence. We really, it was an honest effort to.
It's not enough. Simple. It's not enough. Tracy, go ahead.
Hi, the applicant had submitted a technical memorandum only addressing traffic. So would you like to have them amend the technical memorandum to include air quality and noise as well?
Yeah, if that's something that's, yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Because there was an EAS originally in 1995. So it's appropriate to have this showing how the change will affect the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So you can see what the concerns are. Imagine you live next door, 24 hours of truck fumes, of the noise of trucks. It needs to be mitigated. The wall's not enough. Any other commissioners?
Commissioner, may I just say, so is enough to planting? Is that enough?
You didn't hear me. I said, you have to have a planting bed that produces high shrubs, not shrubs, like arborvitae, something that's very tall, that softens the relationship try to understand this. Again, you live there. Imagine what it's like to live there, right? You want beautiful vegetation that grows high so that you're not looking into this trucking area at all. And the vegetation is dense. So it needs to have adequate tree ball. I'm gonna make it simple. It needs to be a minimum of a 5-foot deep front to back planting bed so that the trees grow really tall because they have to have big tree balls. And then a wall in front of that, that's your acoustical wall, assuming that's allowed as of right. I don't know if your 14-foot wall is allowed. And then all of the other improvements that we discussed before about planting around the rest of the perimeter, removing the chain link, et cetera. And all of the other comments that we had at the last hearing, which maybe I'll need to repeat. And the community board also had concerns. Well, their concerns were about operating on Sunday. So I'm not really sure. They may be concerned about people working on Sunday in this community. I just don't know enough about the community. And also your home, and now it's a particularly disturbing activity on a Sunday. So that's something that perhaps we can hear from neighbors about. I'd like to just ask the other commissioners if they have any other comments. Okay, so just to, and the dumpsters must be inside. We saw them outside, so you have to show us where the trash enclosure is, and the trash must always be kept there.
Yes.
There's not to be any it's not to be rented out as a parking space like we saw for that tanker. So what is that tanker truck then?
I think it was probably fuel for the facility. I'll find out, but no, they're not renting out that parking. If I may say, they need the parking.
Don't forget your fact witness. If you don't know what it was for, just say, I don't know.
Okay, I'll find out. But I'm telling you that the parking is dedicated to the tenants. They're not renting the parking out. That would prevent them from getting tenants. The reason there's less parking and that truck may have parked there is because right now there's less activity. As I said, they're still using the offices. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, just to be clear, it's not to be used as a public parking lot, so the truck can't get parked there. So it can't park there again, right?
It's never been there. It's never been used as rented parking ever. The leases, which I sent you, say this is dedicated parking.
Okay. The other thing we were supposed to see, get photographs, and we never did, of the landscaping in that area that was designated at the last approval as a landscaped area in the
behind the building. Behind the building.
Yes. We didn't do that. We were also supposed to get photographs of the rear of the building to see what its condition is. And by the way, one of the conditions was that the rear of the building have ivy on it to soften the relationship with the neighbors. Instead, it's just this blank wall. So that's, again, this attitude that if you're up against a residential neighborhood, you need to treat it with respect. And then the planting beds have to be planted. Let's see, I'm just looking at what our issues were before. All parking should be indoor.
Dumpsters will go inside. It will be removed if it hasn't been. Sorry about that.
Okay. You like poles. The lighting, again, we talked about, it's not okay to have that light there. If we had a wall and the neighbors are okay with that, then the lighting should go on the wall itself and not on a pole, so that it's definitely shielded by the wall itself.
I think it's on the pole, but okay. I mean, it's on the wall. Is it okay?
It can't be on the wall because you don't have a wall yet. There's a pole right now in the lumen spread diagram that is casting light on the neighbor, which it's not allowed to do.
Yeah, I think the plan shows the pole right in front of the corner of the wall.
Yes, and it claims that it's got 0 lumens on the other side. It's a physical impossibility. So
I will talk to the architect.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I want to
go ahead. Commissioner
Madam Chair, I want to add that based on my site visit and the photos that's on file, it seems there are wall-mounted lights along on the northern face of the building where the docks are. If they're not functioning because there isn't any light, you know, in future there might be light. You know, it might be operational. So you need to factor that into the analysis when doing the light count, or remove it.
Yeah, there are lights along above the loading docks on that wall. I'll factor them in.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, and okay, so I'm suggesting that if, assuming we see a response that is appropriate to our direction, not recommendation, but a direction,
Yes.
then we give this applicant a short leash to implement, and that they come back after a year to make sure that they're complying with the terms of the grant.
I mean, I would ask for something longer, but I understand.
Okay. So I'm going to, because I can't really identify the people who are in the waiting room, I'm going to start admitting people in the waiting room, but this is an invitation to those who are listening to this YouTube video who want to testify on this case. Let me just read the address again. This is case number 122-95BZ 152-65 Rockaway Boulevard in Queens. If you would like to speak on this item, please call in to 646-558-8656. And the password when prompted is 951-7432-1862. And when we while we're waiting to see if others call in, we have a lot of people in the waiting room. So for those of you who can hear, who are in the waiting room right now, I'm going to ask you what case you're calling in about, because I can't tell from just your names. A couple of names I recognize, and so I won't call on those people. Okay, so the first one is identified as Steph. I'm going to admit Steph, and if she would turn off her YouTube video and state her name and then which case she's calling in for. Steph is connecting to audio. Mr. Wright, do you happen to know the name of the owners of the adjoining properties?
There's like 17 of them. I don't know which one was which exactly. I have a list somewhere. I can check the list and see if there's a Steph on it. Hold on.
No, Steph, you're not going to know. That's the first name.
Well, maybe
No,
there's a first name.
I'm looking at the others that we have in the waiting room. Helene Pangalos, maybe with a community board, but I'm not sure. Angelo Costa.
So I think Helene was for a case that was adjourned.
I don't know. I see a Stephanie or any kind of S. I have the full names of the people who got the notice.
How about Angelo Costa? Steph is having trouble. I'm going to admit the next person and wait till she's connecting.
No, I don't see an Angela.
Okay, I'm just going to go down the list here and admit Helene Pangalo. Oh, there's Steph. Steph, can you hear us? Steph?
It looks like she was not able to connect to audio.
Oh,
I don't see Helene.
all right. Steph, can you hear us? So you can tell that you can't connect? That's weird. Okay. All right. So Steph, if you're not able to connect, please try dialing in again to the number that's on the Zoom video screen. I hope that you're able to watch us on YouTube video. The number is 646-558-8656. And the ID number is 951-7432-1862. And you don't actually need to join Zoom. You can just call in with your phone. Okay. So I'm going to admit the next person. I'm sorry about this. It's a little cumbersome on the Zoom program. Okay. So the next person in the waiting room is Helene Pangalos. I'm going to admit her. Steph is trying again. So I think it was Steph who just connected. Steph, is that you? Turn off your YouTube, please.
I'm in, but it's not for this case, so you can pass on me.
Okay, so you know what? I think I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. What case are you in for?
No problem.
Sorry, Steph. What case are you in for?
Oh, the McDonald's case.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll make a note of that. Okay.
And it's just to purely listen, not for anything else. It's okay.
Okay. All right. But you know you can listen to us on the YouTube, so that may be easier for you. But you can stay in the waiting room, and we'll let you in case you'd like to speak later. Okay. Thank you for dialing in.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I'm moving her back to the waiting room. Okay. And then Ms. Pangalos, can you hear?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you tell us which case you're calling about?
One that got adjourned, so I think I'm going to jump off. I didn't even realize I was still on and in a waiting room.
I see. Okay, we'll let you know.
Chase.
Yes, right. So that's going to be rescheduled in a few days. So take a look at our website to see for when it was rescheduled. Okay?
Will do. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you for calling in. All right, moving her. I guess we're putting her in the waiting room and then. Okay. We know that one is for the McDonald's. There's someone named iPad. I'm going to let in iPad. Hi, person named iPad. When you can hear, please state your name. I'm also going to let in, because it's taking a while to connect, I'm going to allow Angelo Costa to enter.
I see no name on the list, just FYI.
Okay, that doesn't, could be somebody else who
Could be.
lives there and wants to notify.
I understand.
Okay. Always takes a little while to connect.
I thank you for your patience.
Sure. No, I think this is actually a great way to have people testify from the comfort of their own homes.
Yes.
We tried to find a pre-waiting waiting room solution, and there isn't one so far on Zoom. I hope they create one. Maybe we should actually be calling their product development and ask them to create a pre-waiting waiting room.
You're the model for all the city agencies as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Thank you. We're very proud, actually, I have to say.
You didn't miss a hearing.
No, we didn't.
I had an April 7th. I thought I was in trouble, but nope.
No, we didn't miss a hearing. We rearranged the hearings to make this possible, but we didn't miss any.
Grateful.
Here's the telephone number. Would we like to admit that person since they won't connect?
Okay, we're admitting last. So the last 3 digits. Number 1. Please turn off your YouTube video.
Hello?
Yeah, please turn off your YouTube video.
Okay, I will. Okay. All right, wait a minute. I'm just trying to figure this out.
Okay. You can just shut your YouTube. Okay.
I'm just trying to stop it.
You can
My
just.
name is Anza Baradino. Hold on a moment.
Okay. So,
I'm trying to just stop it.
N is for.
All right.
No, she's
McDonald.
on the next one.
Is that better?
Not especially, but just listen to me, okay? You're on for two cases from now. So we're going to move you back into the waiting room and then let you to the next case, okay?
All right. I'm on from McDonald's.
Yes, we know. We recognize your name. We recognize your many submissions. We're going to move you back to the waiting room.
Okay, so I'm just going to stay on the phone and I'm going to disconnect from the YouTube completely.
Yes, that's fine. You can do that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay,
Chair.
thank you.
Chair, Angelo Costa is for the next case. He's the architect for the next case.
Oh, great. Okay, so.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so hi. I think you're in
Hi.
pretty early. Which case are you on for?
I'm Angelo Costa for 602 Coney Island.
Okay, so we're going to put you back in the waiting room because you
Okay.
called prematurely, okay? So let me just do that. So, or Kurt, can you put him back into the waiting room?
Yes, so it looks like we've gone through everyone in the waiting room except for iPad, who is still not connected to audio.
Okay, all right, so we'll see if we, okay, so, I think in terms of this case then, so resuming discussion of 122-95BZ, because we're talking about a wall that's being erected along the adjacent property line, maybe, and I know that Mr. Wright has already notified the neighbors, but I would say that, because this is such a sort of tricky subject, perhaps a letter going out directly to that neighbor and the one directly behind. There are two neighbors that, or maybe even three, that share that fence where there's nothing to protect them from the parking area. Send us a letter to them asking them to specifically to dial in, and we'll give you dial-in information for the next hearing. So don't send out a general invitation to participate, but rather we'll give you dial-in information for that hearing so that they can know how to do this, because I know it could be confusing for some people. And also maybe there's a way that you can work out with council, our council, how to let them know that there's a proposal to install a wall on their property line, a 14-foot high wall, and we'd like their opinion on it. Okay.
Okay. I mean, maybe I can give them the plan, but I'll talk to your council about it.
Yeah, a plan, but a lot of people can't read plans. So it's a combination of plan and an explanation of what this has to do with them. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to Kurt.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else? Any other comments from commissioners? All right. So you have a lot to talk about with your client. Please make sure that your client attends the next hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right then. So I think we can move on. Thank you.
I'll try to bring the architect in too. Okay.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in and your patience.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Jella, can you call the next one? You all right?
Item number 14, 27-96-BZ 602-04 Coney Island Avenue, Brooklyn.
She's very chatty today. Okay. So this one is the office of Sheldon Lobel. I see Daryl had his hand up. Hold on one second. Let me just see if Lobel's office is called in. Yeah, I see Fayanne joining. So when you can hear us, Fayanne, please state your name.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fayanne Baton from Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. Is Angelo now in this one? I know he was put back into the waiting room.
He's in.
Okay.
Mr.
Sorry.
Costa,
Okay.
Can you hear us? Mr. Costa, state your name.
She's not talking to us.
Yeah, just,
Angelo?
Mr. Costa, just state your name.
Yes, hi, Angelo Costa.
Okay, thank you. All right. Jella, can you swear them in, please?
Yes,
Oh, that's Fayanne.
both parties should raise their right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay. We attended the review session. I know there were some minimal comments. One that I could address right now is the DOI forms. We've resubmitted them twice, back in 2017 and back in 2019. Daryl, I could send them to you again just to make sure those are submitted. But they should have been our other submissions. So I'll resubmit it this afternoon. I'll resend them.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's the forms, and also we had previously provided the massage license. So is it just the DOI forms that you don't have?
Yeah. So Mr. Ruffin has his hand up, so go ahead.
So one about the DOI, I did find it in my archive, so I did submit it to DOI. The inspector said he would get back to me tomorrow. The results. He's out today. And another thing, FDNY also wanted to make note that they did not, there's no application on file for a public assembly space.
So I believe there is, so I'm just going to turn it over to Angelo right now, the architect, for the two issues. He could speak upon the public assembly issue, because I know that they had filed for it, and then the accessibility. So Angelo, can you address those issues, please?
Yes, hi. First of all, about the public assembly application, we did file a public assembly application that the fire department wanted, and that becomes changed as far as we're including the entire space as a public assembly space, because the eating area and the spa area are really operating as a single space. The second floor is really not a part of the public assembly area because it is isolated, separate area. So we are going forward with the public assembly application, but we cannot get the public assembly application approved until the Schedule A on the main Alt 1 is approved and the occupant loads and all of that are reviewed. So we still have a little bit on that to do. We took this job over, I think you know, relatively recently because of a tragic passing of the previous architect. And so we're trying to expedite it as quickly as we can. As far as the handicap goes, there's more than one method that we can probably solve that concern. For one, the previous application was approved with 2 bathrooms on the first floor that were handicapped adaptable bathrooms. There's only one there now, so the second bathroom has to be installed. That might facilitate the answer. There would also have to be shower facility, private shower facility downstairs on the first floor, and dressing area for handicapped people on the first floor, because those are the only things that are really missing on the first floor to provide full handicapped functions that equal what is on the second floor. Of course, the second solution is to provide a handicapped elevator to the upper level, and we'll go over the various options of that with the owner. But I don't think that there will be any trouble in meeting handicapped facilities either way. There might be a couple of door swings I'm going to change, and that's pretty much it. But we'd rather simply make modifications to the first floor if we can, or I think that's what the owner is going to prefer, and not have to provide the handicapped elevator, which is a much bigger expense. And right now the owner is struggling with COVID and everything else on having to put in an elevator at this point. So they cleaned up what was up on the roof. The space is, nothing's really changed, some very minor changes, which we'll pick up.
Okay, so can you amend the drawings then? I mean, I agree that you probably just need a shower. That's what's upstairs, all the locker rooms.
Right. Right.
So can you amend the drawings to just show a proper turnaround and a shower?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
A shower and probably a locker, probably a couple of lockers for them downstairs.
Right, okay, so, right. I see Chief Daly just appeared. Would you like to say something on this case?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The fire department is aware that they would be unable to get approval of their PA application until they get their, or one, and of course, the board's approval. Our license, our LPPA unit has issued violation orders, and they've asked that, that the applicant at least file 2 PA applications, one for the proposed banquet hall for 290 person, and for the PCE space for 174. They want to get the DOB application number so they can tie them together and be able to track them, and at least grant them time when they do future inspections that we understand the process of the DOB can be frustrating, but at least we can grant time. But if we have no application number, we're going to issue criminal summonses. There are currently, I think, 4 violation orders. 3, I'm sorry, 3 violation orders. And already people are, business is hurting due to the current economy, but we don't want to do that. So we just ask that 2 PA applications be filed, and they can always get the approval at a later date.
We already do have 1 PA filed. I think the second one we still need to do. Do you want
we put the if you want 2 separate PAs, I'll put the banquet hall and the eating and drinking establishment all in one. But if you want me to separate them, I have 1 job number now, but I could get a second one for the banquet hall and separate them.
Hold on, Alex. One of the issues is that in order to have the 2 spaces, they're really operating as a single entity, and so there's not an adequate separation between the 2 spaces right now. So we would have to create another fire separation between the eating and drinking portion and the Banya place. So right now it's really open as 1 space, and that's really what the owner has said, that they really only function as. They never really function as 2 separate entities.
But
so
you have walls between the, on your drawing, the eating and drinking looks very separate architecturally. You have walls and a separate entrance to them.
Right, and for years that's the way it was. We can go back to that, but right now I think on further examination we've updated the plans a little bit. There's an opening between the eating area right now and the Banya, and we can have them put that back and close that back and then create the 2 separate spaces. So it's a very unique place, as you can imagine, because of the physical culture establishment, physical culture issues with the spa. Because they actually serve food in there, people come and go. It's almost like being at the Jones Beach Field 4 pool. It's very much like that. So defining it, we thought was best to just create 1 large PA space that could have the flexibility for her to operate it as she needed. But certainly filing a separate application, or a separate space for the eating and drinking area and 1 for this is something that can be done. I don't see that that's a problem either.
So I'm familiar with these kinds of things where, you have sort of a restaurant function within the spa, but you have a separate entrance. You could have, it seems to me, you can still have a door that goes into the PA space, but you identify them as separate. Otherwise, the restaurant becomes accessory to the PCE, which is a whole other application, right? So you really should be treating them separately.
Fair enough.
Ellie,
I'll have to have her revise. I'll have to restore some of the separations that they had basically opened up that I found when I was there.
Okay, and Mr. Costa, you have someone else speaking from your office. Can you identify that person?
The other one who was speaking was Alex Rodriguez. He's an expediter for me.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Shanda and Chief Daly did have more to add.
Separations that they had basically opened up.
Sorry. Okay, and Mr. Costa, you have someone else speaking.
Someone has to turn their YouTube.
Turn your YouTube video off, and I think it's iPad that's finally made a connection. Please turn your YouTube video off, please, person iPad. I don't know how to mute you because, yeah. The person
Okay.
who's on the iPad needs to turn off their YouTube.
I think it's been turned up.
No, I just mute them.
Oh.
Okay,
Who has their YouTube video on, you must turn
okay,
it off.
okay.
Please turn off your YouTube video. Okay, Ms. Commissioner Shanda, go ahead.
I just had a question. I don't have an issue with separating out the PCE and the eating and drinking establishment, given that they have two separate access ways. It makes it easier. There could be some connection between more for fire access and other things. It would be easier for us to just have one PA permit related to PCE that we are reviewing, and the eating and drinking can be a separate PA, which we are not associated with.
No,
Right?
so we're not involved with the PA permits. That's the DOB and fire department technicalities. Fire department.
Right, but it's getting looped into it, and for our purposes, we only care for the PCE PA, right?
Yes, correct, which is why I think one of the reasons why Chief Daly suggested that it's be two separate ones, but it's also because they are separate functions, right? We're not including the eating and drinking in the PCE application as an accessory use, so they
Right.
really need to treat it separately.
Got
Chief
Got it.
Daly, do you want to add something to that? You're still muted. You're still muted. There you go.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
I agree with the Vice Chair that the two separate PA applications should be filed. And also, just to Mr. Costa, I'm on the DOB website right now. The last application filed was in July 1st, and that was the PAA amendment for you to supersede the previous applicant. So if you or Sheldon LaBelle's office could provide us with the PA application number, that'd be very helpful.
Mr. Costa, did you get that?
We'll get it for you. I think it was part of our cover letter that had the job number, but we'll clarify.
Hello? Yeah, exactly. I think you can hear me now.
Yeah.
The PA application is filed under the DOB now process. It's not under the BIS system, so you might find it there.
No, you won't, you cannot find it there because it hasn't been approved yet. So until we approve the application, it doesn't show up in the DOB now system yet.
Okay.
But I do have a job number that it has been filed, and we have.
Okay, so we'll give them the job number.
Okay. Yeah, I am, the DOB has granted me access to their system so I can verify it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners on this? So now I'd like to, I see more names on our list here. This is, sorry, a second. Case number 27-96BZ 602-04 Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn. If any members of the public would like to speak on this, they should be calling in to 646-558-8656. And the meeting ID number that you put in after the prompt is 951-7432-1862. We have other people in the waiting room again. And I don't know if they're all, if any of them are related to this. So I'm going to admit Cheng Lin and find out whether this person is involved in this case. Cheng Lin, when you can hear us, please state your name. Do we see Cheng Lin? Oh, maybe. And while we're doing this, I'm going to unmute the person who is iPad and ask for her name and which case she's calling about. The person identified as iPad, please unmute yourself and identify yourself and which case you're calling about.
I'm Ann DiBardino, and I'm calling regarding McDonald's.
Okay, so you're calling on many different apparatus.
I know, because I want to make sure I can be heard. I'm trying to manage all this technology.
You're doing a great job because I think you're here on three forms. So stay tuned.
Should I hang up the phone? Am I on Zoom now?
You're on Zoom now. Stay where you are because we're going to talk about your case next, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I'll stay very quiet.
Okay, just mute yourself.
How do I do that?
Oh, I'll mute you and then you don't have to do it. Okay, you're muted. I muted you. I'll unmute you when it's time for you to speak, okay? Then is John O'Connor one of our applicants? Anyone know? Okay, I'm going to admit John O'Connor. Oh, no, I recognize his name. He's on for the next case. Do we know already, Kurt, who last digits is 329?
I don't believe we do.
Okay, so I'm going to admit last digits 329.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, can you hang up turn off your YouTube video, please?
It's off.
Okay, and can you state your name and tell us which case you're calling about?
Brian Spillane. I'm the owner of the McDonald's.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you. Your case is going to be called next, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you for calling in. You'll come up shortly, okay? And then the others, I think we already know 291 is also Miss Bernardino, right, Kurt? That's not right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
There is the 347 number.
That's Mr. Spillane who just called in, no? Oh, isn't that who I just admitted? No, I guess not. Okay.
That was 329.
Okay, so we're admitting 347, 347, yeah, okay. So the person who just entered from the waiting room, whose last three digits are 949, please state your name and which case you're calling about.
Hi, this is Chen from SWA, and I'm calling for 1815 Forest Avenue.
Oh, next case. That's the next case. Okay. Thank you for calling in. You're calling a little bit early. I'm going to put you on mute and we're going to be discussing the case in a few minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Everybody else is here for that. Okay. All right then. So I think we've given an opportunity for everyone to call in who might be interested in this case. So I think we can now, I guess, ask how much, well, we need DOI. Daryl, normally DOI.
He's very responsive. He said tomorrow. So.
Okay. And then we were going to get the drawings. Mr. Costa, you need to amend drawings to show the ADA accessibility, right?
Correct. Yep.
And we need also the fire department needs the PA application number, right? Okay.
Right.
All right. So because we have open DOI, I can't close this, but we can put this on for very shortly. Okay. We'll let you know, Ms. Patan, when you'll appear next. Okay. Thank you so much for Mr. Costa Rodriguez and Ms. Patan for calling in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Item number 15, 120-13-BZ, 1815 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Okay. So I think we have already Mr. Weisbrod's been in the waiting room. Oh, he was admitted just now, right?
Yes, he's connecting to audio.
Okay.
Please state your name when you can hear us.
Hi, Neil Weisbard.
Okay. So you know what? I'm going to let in the other people who are in the waiting room who I know want to speak on this issue. So if they're not able to hear, they'll be able to hear while they're in. I'm just going to keep them muted because we have many people who are interested in giving testimony. So I'm just going to let everybody in so it's fair. Okay. So I'm letting in Mr. O'Connor, but I'm going to keep him on mute So because first we're going to have the testimony from the applicant's counsel. And then I'm letting in another version of Miss Di Bernardino, I think. So that's her phone number, 291, last three digits. I think.
I'm just going to keep them muted.
Okay, so please, whoever just entered, please turn off your YouTube video and we are. Okay, everybody's muted now. Okay, I'm sorry. So go ahead, Mr. Weisbard.
Can you also let in Brian Spillane, 732-758, because he'll have to be sworn in?
Yeah, he's already in. 732.
Hi, I'm in.
You're in, okay. 732-329, right?
Yep.
Mr. Spillane. Okay, I'm renaming you. What's your first name?
Brian.
Okay, thank you. All right. So Jella, if you could swear them in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, proceed.
Hi, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Neil Weisbard on behalf of the applicant. We listened to review session and we understand the board and the neighbors' frustration, and it's clear what the board's asking us to do, and we have a lot of work to do. I don't need to go through everything point by point, I don't believe. However, Brian and I spoke after review session, and he would like to address your board to express his willingness to provide the requested mitigation measures. And so I'll let Brian give a brief statement.
Sure. Yeah, so I did listen to the review, and there were some things that were said there that I would actually have preferred to have done starting in the beginning. However, we were going with the suggestions of DOB in regards to the fence. I don't like the slatted fences either. You know, I'd prefer a vinyl fence, and the arborvitaes are a great idea. I put them at the front of the lot. I'll be very happy to put them in the back of the lot. I think they look great. I think they look much more natural. And we can adjust any lighting needs, even if we have to shut them off. I did do a security survey by the NYPD.
Let me just interrupt you. Sorry, Brian. We sent an exhibit package to the board late last night. We were planning on addressing all the neighbors' concerns, but there's many more concerns.
Okay, I just wanted to quickly state that, you know, they just suggested lighting. That's fine. We can take that right off the table. And the no noise signs, they were, I'm sure, part of the exhibits that were sent in last night. They've been up. We had one of the neighbors write an email about noise the other day. I put a sign up immediately, a handwritten one, and then I went online, ordered signs that morning. As soon as they came in, I put them up. They're throughout the parking lot. There's a sign as you enter the drive-through, and there are signs at the drive-through speaker menu board area. I've kind of taken over operations of this restaurant just recently, and I'll comply with anything the board needs me to do. I know it's not suggestions. I know what's going on here. It's not that hard to read the room. You know, we'll comply with whatever is needed.
Okay, great. So Mr. Weisbard then will guide you through the directions, because I don't know if you heard the whole thing, but we have a review session before this where the board gave its opinion, and then.
I did.
Yeah, okay, so systematically, all of those things need to be done, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Anything else from commissioners that we want to discuss? All right, so because we can now start getting the testimony of neighbors. I'm not so sure whether the neighbors were able to hear us on the Zoom, I'm sorry, on the YouTube video while they were dialed in. So we may need to summarize what we said depending on what the testimony is, because they may not be aware of what the commissioner's position is. Anyway, so I would like to invite anyone else who would like to speak on this application. This is the McDonald's on Forest Avenue in Staten Island. What's the case number? Sorry.
Calendar number 12013 BZ, 1815 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Great, thank you. And so the dial-in number, if you're calling just from your phone, 646-558-8656. And the prompt number ID is 951-7432-1862. Okay, so I'm now going to go back to everyone who's there. Sorry, it's hard to see. How I get to do that? Okay. And just start off with Ms. DiBernardino. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm unmuting. I'm asking you to unmute because you muted yourself. Okay, there you go. State your name, and you have 3 minutes to give testimony. And by the way, we've read all of your submissions and also watched the videos that were sent by Mr. O'Connor.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ann DiBernardino, and for the essence of time, I'm going to read a statement just to make it a little easier. Obviously, my name is Ann DiBernardino. My family and I have resided at 12 Westbrook Avenue since 1976, 9 as a tenant and 34 as a homeowner. When I purchased the home, McDonald's was a smaller operation with minimal drive-through business. In the beginning, there were some noise issues in the parking lot, granted, but nothing like today. The world dynamic has drastically changed in these past years. Approximately 5 years ago, the ownership changed and McDonald's modified their corporate model. This resulted in 2 drive-through lanes, poor fencing, louder intercoms, and brighter lighting. John O'Connor and I met with Marianne Spillane and the supervisor at the location to discuss, well, actually we met here at my home, to discuss the issues that the new model were posing to the community. At that time, they were primarily bright lighting in our homes, poor fencing that provides no privacy, loud noise from customers, and intercom. We left with the thought that these issues would be managed by McDonald's ownership. All of this is well documented in emails. I would also like to mention that the meeting occurred primarily due to us reaching out to the community board and McDonald's corporate office. In the 5 years, nothing has been done to resolve these original issues, and they have only escalated into a more serious situation. To resolve the lighting, I purchased special blinds at my own expense. Even with that, we cannot open them in the evening. I also extended the PVC fencing at the back of my property at an expense to me of $1,500. These issues have only gotten worse over the past 5 years. It is a common occurrence to be woken up by customers partying in the parking lot and the loud intercom. There is well-documented video evidence of this as recent as Saturday, 7/25 at 1:36 a.m. I sent that to the board the morning of 7/26. The ownership has been unresponsive to emails. That we also have, there is also well-documented proof of this. We have been requesting an air quality test for quite some time with no response. Recently, there has been some attempt to reach out, but we believe that is only precipitated by this hearing. The recent email that I received pretty much negated all of our concerns and was condescending and insulting, to say the least. They took a very defensive position rather than trying to empathize with us and work towards resolving with us and work towards resolving the issues. When it is appropriate, I have reached out to the 121 precinct to assist with the parking lot issues. In most instances, they are able to assist. However, it is unreasonable to call the precinct after several loud horns in the middle of the night when they awaken us. I just cannot expect, the horns waken us, then they stop, and I'm going to call the 121 every time this occurs, it's just not a reasonable thing to do. Most attempts to reach the business are unsuccessful or result in the employee hanging up as recent as 7:25. During that time, I was informed that she could not hear the parking lot noise, which is quite unbelievable. I believe that all businesses have the right to exist and profit. With that said, this particular one is much too close to our property line and should not be allowed to operate a 24-hour drive-through operation, if at all. My opinion is driven by the lack of proactive response by the ownership and the detrimental impact it is having on the health and well-being of the community via lack of sleep and peaceful existence. There are working people, a senior population, and school-age children that are all negatively being impacted. My family and I and the rest of the community deserve the right to live in a healthy and peaceful environment. I respectfully request that the drive-through operation be discontinued at this location. Thank you very much for taking my testimony.
Thank you. I'm going to mute you again, okay? All right, we had Mr. O'Connor. Let's see. Yeah, John O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute. Proceed, state your name, you have 3 minutes.
My name is John O'Connor. I represent my wife, Diane O'Connor, as well in this. I thank you for taking the time to hear our testimony today. I actually had a prepared statement, but I'd like to amend that a little bit. It's very nice to hear Mr. Spillane speak about making changes. But for 5 years, Ann and I have voiced many concerns about the conditions of McDonald's. They've gone unaddressed. You've seen the emails that I've sent you. I've sent those emails to Mary Ann Spillane, who I believe is the owner, on numerous occasions. There's just been a lack of disrespect. We have many sleepless nights here, and I don't know what that does to health conditions going forward. We've asked for air quality tests, never a response. Your comments today about a fence, and now the response from Mr. Spillane was a vinyl fence. I don't feel like that's going to help. I think an acoustical fence will offer a remedy. I think that shrubs were an issue that you addressed properly. I think moving the location of the dumpster is they have plenty of room. They can put that dumpster next to sites that are commercial and not residential. They do have a huge parking lot. We are committed to working, everybody's entitled to make a buck. I'm a business owner as well, but they have not been good citizens. And I'm glad that you've at least taken the time to consider what we've asked. I second, and I think the real solution is the 24/7 dissolution of that drive-through. However, we are open to working with them, and we look forward to working with them and making this a solution that is a win-win for all of us. I thank you for taking our testimony.
Thank you. And just to let you know that if the board decided to allow any form of drive-in here, it remains under board control. The minute that you find that the owner is not complying with the conditions of the board approval, you can actually call the board, and the board will send out an inspector, and after which we can call in the owner for what's known as a compliance hearing at any time. It doesn't matter when during the life of the permit. So we have done that, and in some cases we've required the discontinuance of that use. So just to understand that we pay attention.
Thank you very much. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so in future, call us.
Just one more comment with the
Yeah.
signs that we put up. Those signs we just put up yesterday, by the way.
Okay.
But in the past, when we've asked for the signs, the reply was, signs don't work. People don't listen to them. They rip them down. I'm not wasting my money putting up signs. Just for the record, I'm glad they're up. I hope they work, but I just wanted to make that point as well.
Thank you. Okay, we have some other, there's Mr. Cheng Lin. Is that the architect?
Yes, he doesn't need to speak.
Okay. Okay, now this is the confusing part. We have two people who may be Mr. O'Connor and Ms. Bernardino. who their phone numbers. So I'm going to unmute them just to confirm. We have phone number 291. So
Yes, that's me. That's me.
that's Andy Bernardino, right?
Yes, that's me. I can hang up. I'll hang up from it.
Hang up that phone, please. Thank you.
I'll hang up from it. All right. Thank you.
And then we have also phone number, last three digits, 949. I'm just going to unmute it. I'm not sure who that is. Last three digits, 949. Please identify yourself. Hello, hello.
Hi, this is Chen. I'm the architect.
Oh, you're
So
the
I
architect.
don't, yeah.
So you're Cheng Lin, who's also on Zoom, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to mute you. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see if there's anyone else. Did I leave anyone out? Kurt, anybody I'm missing?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay, I see Commissioner Shanda's hand up. I just want to make sure I've gotten all the testimony from the public. Okay, all right, so Commissioner Shanda or Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I forgot to mention this. When I was looking at the sections of the fence heights and adjacent to the building, the proposal is to have a 6-foot high fence. It should be taller than that. It should be at least 8 foot high.
Yeah.
With acoustical barrier that reaches 8 foot high also.
Acoustical barrier, beautiful.
Okay, so, and I would like to add though, because we've been able to understand exactly how much noise there is, which we're not often able to tell when we see these applications. Sometimes the proposal is to install these kind of vinyl drop cloths effectively on the chain link fence as an acoustical barrier. For me, that would not be acceptable here. It has to be a serious acoustical fence. That means it's not cheap, but it has to be a serious acoustical fence that's not just a cloth. I think that one's called Acoustifence or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about a deep planting area that's deeper than what's all on the drawings. I'm going to mute Mr. Spillane. Okay. So I just want that to be understood as a direction. So we shouldn't be seeing chain link fences with a cloth on top. It should be a proposal where we get specifications, and this is to the architect, proposal with specifications on the acoustical fence material that has a finish on the residential side that's appropriate to a residential district. And also we need to see landscaping drawings that include details on the planting bed that will be adequate to support 2 rows of arbor vitae staggered so that it creates a dense buffer with trees that grow to a minimum of 8 feet high. Okay, and any questions from the architect? Mr. Chen?
I'll follow up with Cheng. I don't believe there will be.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments from commissioners? All right. Any questions, Mr. Weisbrod, before we?
Or no.
Okay, all right then. So I just, for the benefit of the neighbors, the commissioners do not believe that there should be a 24-hour drive-in. That's sort of a finished discussion. The question is about the hours of operation, how long they should operate. I had made a recommendation that we didn't really get into. Mr. Weisbrod, you probably heard. My recommendation was it should only operate from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. I think.
Will you say 9:30?
Oh, sorry, 9:30 p.m. I'm not sure what the neighbors think about that, because ideally all of these noise mitigation measures work sufficient to be able to have dinner in your backyard on a nice summer night and not learn about the mac and cheese or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Boy, she's awesome.
If you want coffee.
Right, or whatever the things are. So, so I would like the neighbors to actually consider for the next hearing what kind of reasonable hours there are, and Mr. Spillane to do the same, working together. It would be amazing if you work together. This is usually what we ask the businesses to do, is to work with the community. And I hope that you're able to do it now and actually meet with them. And we have an agreement between the two, but we will enforce all of these mitigation measures, and there is to be no 24/7 activities. Commissioner Shabeta, yes. Go ahead.
I would just ask of the neighbors prior to the next hearing, if they have certain conditions that they think would be helpful, being that they are on the ground, they're there, if there's certain things that they think that would help to make this use not be so obnoxious to them, I'd like to hear their input on it, particularly Ms. DiBernardo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, put your heads together and see what you can come up with us. And we do receive all of your testimony, and we read all of it and saw all of the videos, which I just can't thank you enough for doing that. It's the first time neighbors have actually given us so much information about the impact of these drive-throughs on their lives. And it, as you may have heard the earlier hearing, it actually affected how we are going to look at drive-throughs applications going forward. So I appreciate very much the participation of the neighbors, and thank you for your patience in calling in and learning about the technology of Zoom video. All right, so I think that's it. We will let you know, we'll assign a continuation date in the next couple of days, and that will be posted on our website. You can also call the project manager on this. This is Jolene Ebanks-Chu, or our executive director, Carlo Costanza, to find out when it's rescheduled for, but it will be posted on our website. So you can either call, or actually, I see you've been emailing him, so you can find out that way. Okay.
We're going to need at least 2 months.
Okay. Okay, so speaking of the 2 months, I don't want to see a video like we've been seeing. No more videos like that. The owner, Mr. Spillane, you need to direct your staff to run out to the cars and tell them to turn off their radios. You just have to do that, right? You have signs up, the radios have to be off, right? And the menu board, which for some reason we can hear the double mac and cheese in the backyard of Mr. O'Connor's house. I don't understand why we can hear that. So turn down the speaker. They all have speaker controls, right? So I don't want to see one video in the 2 months coming, and you know you have vigilant neighbors who will send us videos, not one. Otherwise, that indicates to me and the other members of the board that you're not really planning on cooperating once the board makes a decision. So I hope you hear that, and I hope you comply with that. Okay, so 2 months to put together the materials. Ms. Benke, is there a legitimate seeker reason for an air quality analysis? You don't have to answer now if you don't know. We can talk about it.
And I was looking into it. This is technically a type 2 application, but if the board has concerns, we could request a technical memorandum and check with DEP if they want to review it, if they can review it.
I think it's appropriate in this case, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So type 2 application. So we're going to also request a tech memo. This is an environmental memo that includes an air quality analysis. All right. Yeah.
I think we should ask for a tech memo, especially if they're requesting a 24-hour operation drive-through.
Right. That was actually my hesitation. I was going to bring it up now, but if the hours haven't been finalized yet, like that would affect the air quality analysis, I believe. So.
Right. But you would think that air quality would be better in the evening than it is during the day, right? So if you did an analysis just to say arguably at peak operating times, which I'm assuming is like lunch, dinner, then you.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
I was,
Let's just say for argument's
Yeah.
sake, lunch, dinner, you're not going to have peak issues at 3 a.m. in terms of air quality. You get them
Right.
at the peak meal times. So,
right.
so I don't think the hours of operation actually will affect that so much. You can assume during the study the 24 hours because that's what the application was. But it seems that we always have the study that looks at the worst case scenario.
Right.
So
It's true. The peak hour, yeah.
peaks, right? Okay, good. So we just added that. So all right, so we'll put this on, allowing it 2 months to submit. So that'll maybe like in, therefore, what are we up to? August, September. Maybe an October hearing then, right? And we'll let the neighbors know about the October hearing date. But in the meantime, again, Mr. Spillane, not one video or complaint from neighbor in the interim, okay? All right, so thank you everyone very much for calling in and participating in the hearing, and we will be back for our own continuation at 2. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.